we can now get into Mitch Marner, like Lepore. So that, I think, was the other big takeaway from this news conference on Wednesday, is that Marner and Morgan Rielly were the only two Leaf teammates that were there in person for this announcement. So Matthews' family was there. Even like Tavares' family was there. His kids were there. But as you know, among the actual members of the team, only Mitch Marner and Morgan Rielly were in attendance. So read into that what you will. Maybe it means jack shit. Maybe it's just Marner and Rielly there supporting, a good friend of theirs, or I should say two good friends of theirs. But maybe it also means that a contract extension is in the books for Mitch Marner. And he was asked about that. And, this is just coming from a reporter who was in the room. This didn't actually make the actual news conference, but Marner was asked about his future, and he said, "I'm not going to speak on that today. I'm very fortunate to be in Toronto." And that's all he said. So what do you take away from this, Lepore? Because I am starting to get the feeling that he's going to sign an extension. Listen, I'm on record as also saying I think Mitch Marner should sign an extension. I think the Leafs should keep him. He makes this team better. I'm not in the camp that the rest of these Leaf hooligans are in running this guy out of town. I think he's a very important part of this team, and I would like to see him back. So what's your take on the situation?
My opinion on whether or not Mitch Marner should sign or whether or not he will sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs did not change based on his attendance at this press conference. All I see from it is the three A's were Matthews, Rielly, and Marner. Tavares had the C. I just see it as Tavares transferring the C to Matthews, and the two other assistant captains are there. And to the point, if anyone is making a big deal of it, thinking, oh, this means he's going to resign, I'll ask you this question. This would have been a lot of fun. Okay. What if Marner wasn't there?
Yeah, that would be like
A
alarm
bomb.
bells would be ringing like, holy shit. Like imagine it was just Nylander and Rielly who were in attendance. And then people are like, where the fuck is Marner? He's getting traded.
Yeah. So I don't really see anything with it with Marner being there. It's nice. And let's face it, he's from Toronto. Probably spends this. He's in the Muskoka. It's not that far of a drive. Fuck.
Yeah. Whereas Nylander's probably traveling around Europe right now.
He's in Stockholm.
Exactly.
Yeah, doesn't give a fuck. He's like, probably doesn't even know the change has been made.
You're probably right.
He's gonna get back to the locker room. What the fuck is going on here? One thing I will say, and it's on the topic of Willie somewhat, is what are your thoughts on Tavares wearing the A? Like, I think I know what your answer is going to be because you don't want him here at all, but
I think, listen, I don't totally agree with it, but I think it's a good gesture from the Leafs. Because listen, I don't think Tavares was happy about this. Even though he was a class act during the news conference, as I mentioned, I think it's a nice transition. I can swallow it because when it comes to the assistant captains, the alternate captains, whatever you want to call them, like you can kind of change those whenever the hell you want. No one really gives a shit.
yeah.
When you change the captain, when you're putting the C on somebody else, it's a big deal. Not just with the Leafs, with any organization. So I think the Leafs looked at it as, let's pretend, not let's pretend, but let's come together here, guys. Let's present this to the public like, we're supporting each other. Johnny is transferring the C over to Auston. He's going to take a step back. He's going to wear the A. But I think there's a possibility that like that may not last very long. Like this could be a year thing, and who knows? Like Tavares could be out the door, and then see you later to your assistant captaincy. So yeah, that's how I view the situation. It's time for a quick break for a word about Manscaped. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trim from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls Bundle, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker, and another for the boys downstairs. So get 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive code GFP20 at manscaped.com. Lepore, Manscaped coming through in the clutch once again.
Bruno, I can't say I've ever used the same trimmer on my face that I use on my balls, but apparently there are people out there who do, because Manscaped saw the need to do it. So if you are one of those people, don't waste any time. Go get the bundle. Keep that face clean. Keep your balls clean. Manscaped.com, promo code GFP20 for 20% and free shipping.
Gentlemen, don't be a damn farm animal. I mean, for the love of God, if you're using the same razor on your balls as you are on your face, I mean, come on. You're better than that. So head to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive code GFP20. That is code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
Yeah, if I was him, I wouldn't want the A. Because if everything he's saying is true about, wanting to, take the next step in his career and continuing to contribute, I mean, you go from an A. I mean, obviously it's a big honor the first time you're given an A. And then if you become that team's captain, okay, well, now you're the captain. I mean, it's showtime, man. But then if you're in a situation like this where it gets taken away, I wouldn't want to go back down to an A. Like, I would say give Willie the A. The Swedish connection, Salming, Sundin was captain here. He represents our club really well. He signed for 8 years. I would have liked to have seen that. Again, it's not something I really and truly care about, but I just think if I was Tavares, I would not want a letter on my jersey at all.
Like, I think if he didn't get an A, I think that would have indicated like this dude is extremely pissed off, and
But he could have addressed that, Bruno. He could have said, you know what, it's time for other leadership to step in. I'm happy to be a part of this team, happy to contribute and try to achieve our goal. I just think this young group that's come up is fantastic, and I think officially the leadership should go to them. That's all he had to say. If that was the case, come on.
And the point that you mentioned about basically everyone in that news conference being a part of the leadership group, I agree with that. Like, I think Marner's going to be back. And I think the assistant captains are going to be John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and Morgan Riley. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. I could be completely wrong, but I think listen, I don't want to read too much into the press conference either, and Mitch Marner being in attendance, but I think him being there actually does speak volumes, because I think if this guy was out the door and the franchise was basically coming to him, trying to trade him and saying, we don't want you, then he probably wouldn't be there in person. As much as he respects Auston and John, and they've been together for a long time now, I think Mitch Marner would have been like, fuck you. I'm not showing up to this. You guys don't want me anywhere near this organization. I'm not showing up to this unveiling of our new captain. That's the way that I look at it. And maybe I'm, being a little bit ridiculous with the way I'm looking at this, but I think it's fair to say that Marner being there is definitely more positive in terms of him coming back, as opposed to him not showing up. Then, as we said, people would have been freaking the hell out.
Yeah. Here's a question. So Riley was essentially captain B because he was one who always had the A, and Matthews and Marner would rotate it home and away. What happens now? Is that guy Tavares who always wears it? Does it stick with Riley? Interesting.
That's an interesting question as well. I think it probably stays with Riley. Listen, I love Morgan Riley. You know where I stand. The listeners of the show know how much I love that guy. Like, I would argue that he probably should have been the captain when Tavares was given the C, and then eventually would have probably been transitioned over to Matthews anyway. But I think Morgan Riley's awesome. Like, really, if you think about it, he might be like, and listen, just another thing I want to point out, like, I don't think Matthews getting the C means that all of a sudden this team's going to win the cup, and all of a sudden, like, they're just going to get over the hump and look like a completely different team. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the case. But here's what I'll say about Riley. Like, I think he could easily be the captain of this team. And if you think about just like combining personality with talent, and also the way that they represent themselves and the team through the media, you could argue that Morgan Riley is like the number one draft pick in terms of like embodying all of that and being like the actual best leader for this team. Like, you could argue he should have the seat.
Yeah, because with Riley, and it's a skill, he shows his emotion without being overly emotional. Like you can just tell he cares by a clean, simple sentence and his facial expressions and how he addresses the person who asked the question. So no, I agree with that.